I want to read to you the story called Light by C.S. Lewis. "Bless us," said Anne. "There's 11 o'clock and you're nearly asleep, Robin." She rose with a bustle of familiar noises, bundling her spools and her little cardboard boxes into the work basket. "Come on, lazy bones," she added. "You want to be nice and fresh for your first walk tomorrow." "That reminds me," said Robin, and then stopped. He approached the subject 3 times already since his operation, once to the doctor, once to the nurse, and once to Anne herself. And each time something seemed to have gone wrong. Now he felt unreasonably nervous. I suppose," he mumbled, "I suppose there'll be lots of light out there when we go for that walk." "You mean it'll be lighter out of doors?" "Well, yes, of course it will, but I must say that I've always thought this is a very light house. This room now, for instance, we've had the sun on it all afternoon." "The sun makes it hot," said Robin tentatively. "What are you talking about?" said Anne. And that's what Robin couldn't understand. Why they all sounded so angry or frightened or bemused whenever he got near to the real question, as if they thought he was mad. "I mean," he said, "look here, dear. I've been wanting to ask you something ever since I got back from the nursing home. I expect it'll sound silly to you, but things must be different to a chap who's been blind all his life, mustn't they? It's all so new to me. As soon as I heard that there was a chance of me getting my sight, well, I looked forward to it. The last thing I thought of before the operation was light, wondering what it would be like. Then all those days afterwards, before they took the bandages off, wondering, waiting. But of course, darling, that's all very natural. Then, his voice shook a little. Why don't I mean, where is the light?" His 3 weeks of sight had not yet taught him to read the expression of her face, but he knew by her voice the warm wave of muddled, frightened affection that had swelled up in her as she said, "Why don't we just go to bed, dearest? We can talk about all this in the morning. You know you must be very tired." "No," he said, "I've got to have this out. You've got to tell me, great Scott. Don't you want me to know?" "Know about what, Robin? Ask me anything you like. But there's nothing to worry about. Your sight is perfectly all right now. You're cured." "Well then, answer me this. Is there light in this room at present?" "Of course there is, Robin." "Then where is it?" "Why, it's all around you." "Can you see it?" "Yes, but really, Robin dear, then why can't I?" "But Robin, you can. You can see me, can't you? And the mantelpiece and the table." "But that's what drives me mad. That's the sort of thing you all say. I want to see light. Are you light? Is the mantelpiece light? Is light only another name for all these other things?" "Oh, I see what you mean. You're talking about the light. That's it there, hanging from the ceiling with the pink shade." "Then why did you tell me that the light was all around us?" "Darling, I mean that's what gives the light. The light comes from there." "Well then where is the light itself? You see, you just won't say. Nobody will. You tell me there's the light and here's the light and this is in the light and that's in the light and people get in each other's light. But you won't point out the light itself. If none of you know what light is, just say so. If there's no such thing, if it's all just a fairy tale, then tell me. If the operation was a failure and I still can't see what other people see, just let me know. I can take that. It's this secrecy I can't stand. You're all like conspirators." Well, then Anne began to cry, and Robin apologised and comforted her, and they went to bed. This conversation made him more cautious. Clearly it was never going to be any use asking about light. Either there was no such thing, or else he was all the time making some appalling mistake. If he was not careful, he'd find himself in the hands of doctors again, psychotherapists as likely as not. When Anne took him out for his walk the next day, he was on his guard. He kept on saying, "Oh, it's beautiful, it's all so lovely, let me drink it in." And that satisfied her. And he knew enough now to know that none of the things he saw could possibly be light. They were, as Anne explained to him, only fields or cows or grass or the sun or trees or a quarry. Nothing could be attempted until he was able to go for walks on his own. About 6 weeks went by before he first did so. During that time he had passed through every fluctuation of hope and despair. But the steady trend of his feelings was towards an increasing and presently tormenting desire. He no longer concealed from himself the fact that the visible world was basically a disappointment. He realised that he had never really wanted it except for the sake of light, and unless somewhere amongst everything he could find pure stream of light and bathe his eyes in it and drink it in, well, all the clouds and the colours and the animals and what Anne called the view were of just no account. On the morning when he first went out alone, there was a mist. But he had met mist before, and this didn't trouble him. He walked out over the railway bridge and up the steep hill and then along the field path that skirted the lip of the quarry. Anne had taken him there a few days before to show him the view. She had said what a lovely sight there is on the hills over there. This was the clue that he was now following, though with very faint hope. He was almost certain by now that she knew no more about light than he did. He was beginning to suspect that most of the unblind were in the same position. What one heard among them was probably mere parrot-like repetition of a rumour concerning something which the very few, the great poets and prophets, had really seen and known. Somewhere it must exist. Perhaps not in England. Perhaps only rare deposits of it existed, far away to the east, in deserts or high mountains. In that case he would never see it. But if he did, yes, if he did, he would dive into its very heart, give all himself away to it, drink, 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 drink it till he died drinking. The mist thinned rapidly, trees brightened out of it, birds began singing, and he found he was hot. His shadow lay before him, each moment blacker and more distinct. That violent yellow thing, the sun, which one could never see properly, stared at him on his left hand. He pulled the brim of his hat lower over his eyes, blinking. "If only I could see any light," he muttered. At that moment, he caught the sight of a young man who was standing with his legs wide apart on the edge of the cliff, singing and making jabs with some slender instrument at a complicated two-legged object about the same height as himself. If Robin had had more experience, he would have recognised this as a canvas on an easel. As it was, his eyes and those of the wild stranger met so unexpectedly that Robin blurted out, "What are you doing?" before he had time to be self-conscious. "Doing?" said the stranger with a certain light-hearted savagery. "Doing? I'm trying to catch light if you want to know." "Good God, so am I," said Robin. "Oh, you know too, do you?" said the man. Then, almost vindictively, "They're all fools, you know. How many of them come out to paint on a day like this? How many will see it even if you show it to them? And yet this is the only sort of day when you can see light. I mean solid light. Light you could drink in a cup or swim in. Look at it." He pointed into the quarry. The fog was at death grips with the sun, but not a stone on the quarry floor was yet visible. The bath of vapour shone like white metal and unfolded itself in ever-widening spirals towards them. "Do you see that?" shouted the violent stranger. "There's light for you if you like it." A second later, the expression on the painter's face changed. "Here," he cried, "are you mad?" The grab he made at Robin was just too late. Already he was alone again on the path. From a new-made and rapidly vanishing rift in the fog beneath him, there came up no cry, but only a sound so sharp and so definite that you would hardly expect it to have been made by the fall of anything so soft. as a human body. That and the momentary rattling of a dislodged stone.